from the factory to the office was a door which you had to go through to take your letters all around the factory. And I went through the door one day and there was this man doing not press-ups but hold-ups on a door frame. And he was a very nice man. And we started talking, and he was a Polish man. And we just started talking from there. And that's how I got together, and we started going out for dates. For a start, he was 13 years older than me, so he was a real man, and I was still a young girl, really.
Was the age difference a big issue?
Well, it was, because I was very naive at 16, and he'd sort of been about the world a bit, really. And another thing that was the issue was that he was foreign, because in those days you didn't have foreign people in England. And my dad wouldn't allow me to bring him home. It was a good 6 months before I could take him home, because my dad didn't want any foreigners in the house.
How did you kind of overcome the issues with your parents?
Well, you just had to work through it, and my mum met him and liked him, but my dad refused anything to do with him. But in the end, one of my sisters, the middle sister, she met him and said what a lovely man he was, and she got on to my dad and said, you have to let her bring him home. She loves him and she wants to be with him.
What was that first night when you brought him back like?
It was very nerve-wracking. It was very nerve-wracking because he was nervous, and when he was nervous, his eyelashes used to go up and down all the time. He was really scared because he didn't know what my dad's reaction would be. And I can remember putting my hand through the door thing and seeing my dad disappearing out the back door. And I thought, what's going to happen now? Is he going to be funny with him and that? But he came in and started speaking, and after a while they got on famously. The language, he could speak quite a lot of odd bits, but he got mixed muddled up because in Polish a V is a W and a W is a V. So if he said vest, he called them wests and things like that.
What were your initial opinions to foreigners and immigrants?
Well, I thought they were lovely because the Polish men were very smart, very looking after ladies. They pulled the chair back when you sat down, they pushed the chair back in, they walked on the outside of the path when you walked on the road, they kissed your hand when they met you, and they were really, really nice, made you feel feminine.
How was your relationship seen in the wider community?
I mean, for a start, my next door neighbour, one of my neighbours down there, didn't speak to me from the day when Johnny came to the house until my son was about 3 years old, running up and down the garden and kept talking to her, and she had to answer him. And from then on, she spoke to Johnny and to me.
So how did that make you feel? Did you feel isolated from the community?
No, it made me angry. Why she didn't know this man, and why was she being like that? She didn't know how he would behave. Why would she be like that, I know in the office where I worked, there was a lot of funny remarks about foreigners and that, and they'll leave you and, they don't stand a chance and all this business. But on the whole, people sort of adjusted to it, I suppose. He was just different. He was different to an Englishman because he was arrogant. They were a bit arrogant, but he was intelligent, he was smart, and very, very smartly dressed. And, he's just a nice-looking man, and well, he was just different to Englishmen. Never fancied an Englishman. Well, my wedding day was, I was married in a Catholic church, and I wasn't Catholic. So I had to go for lessons on confessions and all that sort of stuff. before, we were greeted by the Polish priest who told me that because we were foreigners, we weren't allowed to have the organ played. So there was no music. We had to walk up the aisle, with no music and everything because they were against foreigners using the church. I went to church with Johnny on occasions, and I didn't understand it really, but I thought, well, I'm married to this man, and so I changed to Catholic. I did realise, and that was one thing my dad was scared of, that I would have to go back to Poland with him. But he told me he would never go back to live there. He didn't want to. He had the choice. He could go back to Poland if he wanted, and or he stayed here and make a life here. Well, he didn't want to go back to Poland, because if he'd have gone back to Poland with the Russians still there, he would have gone back into prison. In the end, we did go to visit them, but by then his father had died. And he was quite upset that he never saw his dad. He was 18 when they took him from Poland to Russia, and he never went back till he was in his 30s, you see, first time he went back. And that was quite touching, when we went back to the family. But he loved his family. He loved his country until the day he died, but he didn't want to live there. He made his home in England, and that was it.
How was his family receiving to you?
Well, actually, they were very nice to me. They didn't treat me like a foreigner, but they were very nice. I mean, there was trouble with language because I didn't speak Polish. They didn't speak English, so you sort of had to do it with your hands or whatever. But they were very, very nice to me. Always made me welcome.
So that was very different to when your family.
Well, the start, yeah, but my family were okay by then.
Can you remember when you went back to Poland with Johnny a few years later with your son?
Well, we went back in 1961, and Andrew, my son, was 5, and we went. I'd never been abroad before, and I felt as if I was going forever. And we went by sea and then train all across through East Germany, West Germany, Belgium and all that, And we got to the station. We'd been travelling all night and all day. Loads and loads of cases because Johnny wanted to take presents for all the family. And when we got to the station, his mum was waiting. She'd been waiting for 4 or 5 hours. Every train that came in from Warsaw, she thought her son was going to be on there. And then when we got off the train, and I saw her first, and I ran to her. I didn't know her, but I ran to her, and she hugged me, this little old lady with a little scarf on her hair. And then she ran, and Johnny ran to her. But he was in such emotion, he didn't cry. And the next day, his face came out in all sort of like spots where the nerves reacted to him, his feelings. We had this party, and everybody was crying and laughing, and it was just very, very, very nice. It was all different to me because it was very foreign, and the food they ate was a bit different to what I was used to, and we went round visiting his friends. They were all pleased to see Johnny, and we met other family members, cousins and everything, people who hadn't seen him all these years. And but still, I think he stuck out like a sore thumb because he was different from them.
Looking back, what would you have told 16-year-old Dotty?
Looking back, I would have told her, be brave and, stick with it. If it's what you want, that's what you got to stick with. We enjoyed our life, really. And I was very pleased I'd met him in Hunting Palmers.